I'm pretty explicitly against the kind of paid endorsement. I think parents see right through it. I think customers see right through it. And for our product, trust is so important that it has to be very authentic.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Marketing Vanguard podcast. I'm Jenny Rooney with Adweek, and I'm thrilled today to be joined by Liz Teran. She is the CMO of Owlet, and I'm really excited to dive into this conversation. As you may know, on Marketing Vanguard, I invite CMOs and equivalent titles from a whole host of different kinds of companies to come join me and talk about their personal journeys, what brought them to this place, and the headwinds and opportunities that they face in leading marketing strategy for their companies, and really try to parse apart the decision making that these individuals make. Because as we all know, decisions can change the trajectory of a brand or business in a nanosecond. So we try to really unpack that. And Liz, I'm thrilled you're here because for one thing, you're going to introduce me to this brand. I'm super excited to learn about it. I'm sure our listeners are as well. But yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And don't worry, I have no shortage of challenges to talk about. So can't wait.
But doesn't every CMO? I
Right?
mean, if that isn't consistent, I don't know what is. So,
Exactly.
they might be different challenges, right? And that's the whole point, depending on category, brand, market position, et cetera. But, I'd love to start by having you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your own personal career journey. Always love to hear that, and also love to hear what your educational background is too.
Oh my gosh, I'll launch into my life story. Then just pausing, I'm not going too far. But so yeah, I have been at Owlet now for about the last 5 years. I'll share a little bit about my experience before that. I was with Skullcandy, which is a consumer electronics company, for about 10 years prior to that. And had a lot of fun. Actually, most of my experience at Skullcandy was in the product marketing realm. And so I'm very much a marketer, but I'm also very much a product person and a very consumer obsessed person. And that's really guided my career and decision making on where to take my career. So that led to me transitioning to Owlet. I, like I said, I've been there the last 5.5 years or so. And for the last 3 years, I have led the marketing team here. But actually, and this is new news to you as well, in the last 2 months or so, I have taken on a new role as Chief Parent Officer. And Chief Parent Officer leads the new parent org, which now includes marketing, product management, design, and customer service. So
Oh
this
my
is
God.
actually, yeah, really exciting for me and just bring all.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So
That's
still
awesome.
leading marketing, but getting to get my hands on some of the other things that I'm really passionate about as well.
Well, what's really cool about that is, anymore, and I talk to folks all the time. And yesterday, I just happened to have a conversation with, frankly, an exec recruiter who said, um, you know, anymore, a CMO is fully the chief customer officer. And if there isn't that, if you're not, especially in the age of AI and everything else, like if you are not bringing that first and foremost, and I think we've talked about that for a number of years now, but I do think that it's taking on a new significance in this era of AI, and we can dive into that in a minute. But um, more and more, it seems to be coming into relief that sort of understanding of your community, your customer, your audience, your participant um, needs to be first and foremost in terms of what a CMO brings to an organization. So that's thrilling for you. Congratulations. Owlet itself, honestly, it's sort of like, a new kind of company for the infant and baby market, which, there's no shortage of competition in that category. So tell us a little bit about Owlet.
So Owlet, for those that are not aware, we've been around for about 10 years now. And it all started actually with a really passionate group of parents who wanted to be able to solve for some of those early challenges that parents are experiencing when they're bringing a baby home. And I'm a mother of two. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. So somehow it actually feels like a century ago that I was bringing home my newborn. But that concern, that worry that you feel on night one is just indescribable to someone before they've had a child and immediately understood once you've had a child. And there's like an immediate connection with other parents in this struggle that they go through. And I think Owlet was founded on the mission to make that journey more joyful, more reassuring, have more peace of mind because that's what it should be. But some of those early years are instead plagued with worry and confusion, and that's just not how we want the journey to be for parents. So yes, the baby category is very crowded, especially baby monitoring specifically. But what's really unique about Owlet is we actually go beyond what traditional baby monitors do, which can include, seeing baby or hearing baby. We our founders invented our own proprietary technology that uses medical grade technology on the child's foot to track their live health readings. And when you layer that with being able to see and hear your baby and also understand their live health readings, there is just a level of reassurance and peace of mind that is unattainable from another market. And one of my favorite ways to sum it up is that we monitor the most important things about the most important people you care about in your home. And that's really what we're all about.
So it's interesting as you talk about it, you're clearly leaning into the product qualities and you mentioned your role, you were at Skullcandy before. You're a very product, as you described yourself, you're a product first marketer, right? And thinking about that. Back to my question about education, I'm just curious, do you have a formal or traditional marketing education? Is there anything in your educational background that is tech related? How did you sort of get to this niche? Because it's a really cool one.
It is. Actually, I have a BA in advertising. So I was with a copywriting emphasis. And so for me, definitely understanding consumers, understanding problems to solve and rooting yourself in an insight was some of my more formal training, but also just my passion as someone that loves to buy things and loves marketing, like talk to me how I want to be spoken to. A lot of it is traditional education and some of it is just kind of who I am and what I'm interested in. But I definitely, as much as I am product forward and product obsessed, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily technology obsessed. I very much care more about the solutions than like how it's done. And so I kind of naturally lean towards what are the actual benefits, not like what are the features that are driving them.
It's a means to an end. It's not the
Yeah.
end in and of itself. No, I love that. So, remind me again. So, Owlet's how old is the company?
It's just a little over 10 years. Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm sure that frankly the product itself has evolved in those 10 years as well from
Absolutely. Yes.
okay. So, talk a little bit about that and how you've been because you've been there for more than half of that the length of its history.
Yeah. I should say it's one of those that's a little hard because, technically founded in 2012, but, some of those very early years are 4 people in a
Totally.
room above a Chinese restaurant, so it's, well, the exact day we had the product first launch, which day do you count? Um, but I have been here for a very long time and been through a very interesting evolution. Like I said, our founders, for example, our main founder that is talked about most, Kurt Workman, when he got married, his wife informed him of a heart condition she had when she was little that led to her as a baby having to get a surgery. And he was concerned, and it was genetic. So he was concerned that when they were having kids, that that's something he would have to deal with. And as he thought about this problem to solve, he was talking to a classmate at college and was mentioning this. And they were saying, oh, I'm a nurse up at the hospital and we use these pulse oximeters on babies. And that's how we look at their heart and oxygen. And he thought, oh, how cool would it be to be able to bring that technology at home and have that reassurance at home? So he kind of kicked that off, and him and a small group, had several different prototypes. They traveled the country in these, startup competitions and, early stage funding type things. And when they first launched their concept of our hero product, which is at the time was called the Smart Sock, the response from parents was just overwhelming. Like, yes, this is completely an unmet need for us. I didn't sleep when I brought my baby home. I just stared at them for 2 weeks straight, that sort of thing. So they knew they were onto something. And since then, the sock itself has evolved over several generations. And when I joined in 2020, we were just about to launch the Smart Sock 3, which was our most advanced smart sock, just, proven technology, proven accuracy, best functioning product. And about a year and a half after I joined, this is where the challenges come in. Uh, we received a warning letter from the FDA saying, hey, you are not a medical device, but you don't have clearance as a medical device, but you're essentially operating as one. And that was obviously huge, horrible ordeal. And it was really interesting because it wasn't that we had any sort of safety concerns. We didn't have any sort of complaints or recalls, but it was a regulatory body saying, you shouldn't be selling this. And also is interesting because you think about like your Apple Watch or your Oura Ring, like there are tons of devices that do this for adults, but unfortunately, fortunately, infants are considered a vulnerable audience, and so there's more regulatory hurdles you have to cross to be able to share this information. So I was over the marketing department when we received this letter, and it was a very challenging time, but also exciting time to reimagine the product experience we could deliver while we worked arduously to deliver on a real FDA clearance. And so I'm happy to report that as of actually we got the clearance in, I want to say June of 2023, or no, November of 2023. And in June of 2024, wow, I'm sorry, in January of 2025. Oh my gosh, Jenny. Okay. In January of 2024, obviously, this is done giving me brain damage. We were able to launch our FDA cleared Dream socks. We have FDA clearance. We have medically certified clearance all across the UK and EU. We just received medical clearance in Australia. So now we are just taking that medically cleared experience all across the world. And it's such an exciting time.
Oh my God. So exciting. So first of all, there's a lot to unpack there. So founded a company. Yes. It was a startup essentially.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Still founder led, still private company?
We are a publicly traded company on
You're
that
okay.
NYSE. Mhm.
Got it. Okay. And when did that transition?
Such a good question. That transitioned in June or July of 2022, about 2 months before our warning letter. So that was really fun.
Oh. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Interesting. Okay. So now you're a public company. And obviously that was going to be the question was how have you been building the product with the buy-in of frankly of the medical community and with physicians and things like that? Is it would feel like you'd want to have that not only the FDA clearance, but perhaps engage with, that community just to get buy-in or at least credibility in some respects, because the trust issue is very big for parents, right?
Yeah, one really super interesting thing in my time in 2022 was, right before the warning letter, we had been doing a bunch of customer research, and actually about 30% of our users worked in the healthcare profession and were huge advocates of what was called the smart sock at the time. And the reason they were is they understood pulse oximetry technology. They knew how to interpret it. They knew how to use it. They knew to what degree to trust it and all those sorts of things. But one challenge we did face was, if you were to actually go to your pediatrician and say, oh, should I use this product? They would never recommend something that's not FDA cleared. So there could be no real sort of official endorsement, even though they made up a huge portion of our actual user base. And post FDA clearance, it's been so exciting and wonderful to see just a influx of pediatricians and healthcare professionals coming in saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I can, recommend this to my patients." We have NICU nurses that love it and recommend it to every family they send home. So it's been really exciting. There are definitely always going to be some people that take issue with it. But one really exciting thing is the clearance we have on DreamSock specifically is a de novo clearance, which means it's like the first of its kind. There wasn't a predicate device based on that we met some other standard for it. There was an extremely rigorous set of standards that we had to meet net new for a brand new technology that was going to be over the counter. And we were able to meet those standards. And if you achieve a de novo clearance, it essentially means like our tests and our product has proven to be more valuable than not having it. Meaning the monitoring, there are some claims that we aren't legally or regulatorily allowed to make, but it does provide us with the reassurance of like, hey, you've proven that this does provide value to parents and is worth monitoring versus not.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack there because also realizing too is that you, to your point, you are a lot back to your product focused, and the way you think about the technology and the product itself even is not the end in and of itself. It's a means to an end. And you as the marketer, or you're the voice of the customer, or you're the voice of the parents, like I can imagine you are continuing to push that narrative alongside the product build because somebody in the room had to say, okay, but guys, we need to think about the outcomes, the benefits, that the parents are gonna really sort of attach onto in a in a thoughtful and emotional way.
Absolutely. That is the rigor I definitely try to push the teams on because, some examples I can't use because it's future innovations, but there are definitely times where our teams will kind of fixate on technical feasibility. And I challenge them to think, hey, the desired outcome is X. How we get there, there are a million pathways. Like, let's figure it out. And so for me, yes, our product uses medical grade hospital technology, pulse oximetry, tracks oxygen pulse rate. But what I really want parents to understand is that there are so many things happening with your baby when you bring them home. They don't have a voice, they can't talk, they can't tell you what's good or not good, what's well, and if they're not well. And traditional baby monitors only let you see and hear them. They can't really tell you what's going on below the surface. So our product, goes beyond what's happening on the surface to tell you the most important information you can about them and give you real reassurance. We have so many parent stories of these critical moments that our product has supported the parent in, and some of them are more dire than others. But one of them that I has stuck with me is one where parent was, I think she was sitting at the table with her child, and usually we're warned while they're sleeping, so this was interesting. But she said her baby looked completely healthy. It was just sitting there picking at its food, and the alarm was going off multiple times, and she kept thinking, "Oh gosh, there must be something funky going on with this alarm. Why does it keep going off?" And after the third or fourth time it went off, she thought, "Okay, fine, maybe this is something I should go look into." And she took her baby to the doctor, and her baby had a heart rate that was well above normal thresholds for an infant. Looked completely normal on the outside, but then inside was really struggling and having you know tachycardia. So, that was just an incredible story that really stuck with me. That was she was like, "I never would have known, if I didn't have this product." And I think that's a benefit I focus on is not so much getting hung up on the technology of it, but that outcome is, irreplaceable with another
Totally.
product.
Yeah, I mean, that is the meaningfulness that the product is
Yeah.
in the world. Um, is it trademarked? Do you have to go down that path of trademarking this product, or how
Yeah,
does
patenting it, we do have
oh, I'm
a
sorry,
a
pat
lot of patents, yeah. We do have a lot of patents with our product. Pulse oximetry is a technology that really is not patented to us specifically, but this use of it, our product specifically, and in the market, we do have some good patents around.
that's great. Um, um, the other point I was gonna make and what I'm acknowledging here is that, it's good that you basically this product came into the world at a time when you mentioned the Aura Ring and, I mean, listen, the Nike Fuel Band has been around for what?
Well, yes, I remember.
20 years, and so, we're living in an era where there's an acceptance, around data and this concept of personal data. Understandably, it's babies, and that's a different kind of dynamic, but, you know what I mean? So, the bar is lowered to get acceptance generally in the concept of, this is a tool that's gonna enable you as parents to see more data around your baby, right? Because they're used to it as adults.
You would think that, and for some people, I think there is, but I actually find it interesting, and this is, again, maybe another one of our challenges. It's definitely very broadly accepted for adults as a wellness tool and a health charting tool, or maybe I'm an athlete that wants to excel more. And there is a little bit more resistance or kind of, I'd say, perspective that this is an unnecessary level of monitoring for infants. And I find that so interesting because in my experience, both as a user and in reading parent stories, I think there is no more important time to be tracking these things about a child. I mean, there is so much that you can understand from your child's health very early on that can have really big implications for the rest of their life. And I'm a or ring user, and understanding my own baselines and health trends and how those are impacted by what I do or eat or whatever has been instrumental in changing my health. And I see that same thing for children. We used to, before our FDA situation, we used to sell a sock that was for kids up to 5 years of age. And so I would use it on my older child, and getting those sleep insights for, my child as old as 5 and he's 9 now. But, when I can see how he's sleeping and the impact that has and watch his health over time, I have been able to make decisions that have totally changed the trajectory of his emotional health, behavioral health. And I just think there needs to be you know, I think there needs to be a huge shift in people's desire for and understanding of the benefits for this kind of technology from early stages of life.
Sure. And that's where marketing comes into play. And
Like, that's my
and
job. That's my job to figure that out.
100%. And that's a good segue into my next question, which is, what is the role of marketing at your company? How supported is it as a practice? That's not just an expense. It's not just, it's not a cost center, but it's actually an investment in growing the company. And how did you make sure you had buy-in from your CEO, from your founders, from your other the other C-suite peers, just to make sure that you felt that that marketing had endorsement and support, at the company?
Great question. Well, credit to our founder who has recently announced his intent to move into a different role on our board. And so we have a new president transitioning into CEO role. But credit to both of them. In my time at Owlet, marketing has always been a valued perspective at the table. And I think that does come back to how it was founded and rooted in parenting problems to solve, and how necessary marketing has been in explaining the value and
And there's an education element.
yeah, there's so much education involved with our products. So it's always been incredibly valued. It's always been well funded. And I think this recent shift into the parenting org of merging that with product reflects just how committed this organization is to uh, really being parent first. And for that means not only building the right product, but then making sure parents understand the product and are able to, get the most out of it. So I've always felt a real prioritization and dedication, which I know is a lot of people can't say the same. So I very much value what I have here.
Yeah. I can imagine that your category, you know, you could see an opportunity for celebrity endorsement. I mean, there's a lot of celebrity parents out there. How have you thought about either, working with celebrities or creators or anybody else who's going to give, or influencers who are going to give you that reach?
I hope I don't give too controversial of an answer. Listen, I love parents, and parents that want to work with us and sharing our story and promote us, whether they be a celebrity or a neighbor down the street. I want them part of our brand. I want them part of our mission, and I want to hear their voice. I am I'm pretty explicitly against the kind of paid endorsement. I think parents see right through it. I think customers see right through it. And for our product, trust is so important that it has to be very authentic. When we got our warning letter, we actually had to cut just to survive as a business, because these kinds of clearances are extremely expensive, and we had just become a publicly traded company. We had to actually cut our marketing budget by over 80% within a year and survive. And one of the first things we cut was paid influencers, which we were running at the time. And now, we do seeding, certainly to celebrities and certainly to bigger names. But our perspective is, if you love our product, you'll speak about it. And we're happy to give it to you free. And we'd love to partner with you. But otherwise, we want an authentic, real opinion and not a paid one.
I love that. No, I love that. I love the candor of that answer, and that you have a clear opinion on that for sure. Um, I think there could be people listening to you, hearing your story, folks who could be frankly, and I talk to CMOs at big multinational brands, And I think that frankly, they would find your story and your position very interesting because I do think that some of these younger brands and some of these more disruptive brands and frankly some of these these brands of companies that are building new kinds of actual products, like bringing new products to bear as opposed to taking existing products and retelling a story around it or introducing a new campaign to sell it, would find what you're talking about very, very interesting. Also, obviously, young people who are coming into the marketing world who are thinking about long-term opportunities, I do think there's still, although I think nowadays there's probably less of this, but historically you'd think about if you were a marketing student or an MBA student at the college level, you might think sort of the stalwart companies that you go to are like a P&G or a PepsiCo or Mondelez. You get you get foot in the door and you kind of take, and that's very B2C and very CPG, quite frankly. But like, anymore, marketing opportunities exist at just so many different types of category in so many different types of categories, so many different stage companies. What's your, I guess, best advice or perspective on really the plethora of opportunity that exists for certainly marketing work, but also marketing leadership and how people need to be thinking more broadly about the opportunities that are available to them, especially right now in the age that we're living in.
I feel like a just difficult one because every industry right now feels like is going through so much change. So as much as there are lots of opportunities, it also feels like, especially with AI, like and marketing, how are those opportunities changing or how are those I think we're just entering this really it feels like volatile stage. So for me, I think my advice would be the same as it would be for a brand, at both like a personal level and a brand level. Just be authentic, like understand yourself. So what are the things that are driving you? What are the values? What do you want to see? For me, I knew I was passionate about product always. I took a marketing job right out of college that just didn't align with who I was. I was helping to sell prom dresses and pageantry stuff, and it wasn't me, and so I couldn't even get up in the morning and go do it. So I ended up going to Skullcandy just because, and I actually ended up taking a job at the front desk when you talk about like getting your foot in the door and working your way up. That was my first job was answering the phones and but I knew it aligned to my values better, and that just totally changed the trajectory of my career. So I do think just in general, whether it's in your personal career or your brand, you can't go wrong if you're genuinely being authentic to who you are. You're going to find people that will resonate with that and that will invest in that, and it will just be so much easier to be good at it because it's just who you are.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's such great advice. I mean, it's honestly, it's really just common sense, and I think
Yeah, which we need to get back to. So
we really do because there's so much narrative around this, and there's so many things that people think about and talk about that gets away from sort of the basics, and thinking more realistically about, to your point, what they need, what they want, and what's going to drive their passion, and environments where they can really employ, their innovation, their creativity, all the things that we love to think and talk about. Um, AI, let's just ask the question because every marketer, no matter what you're selling, it's what's Liz's take on that and
it's
how
my
do you
take.
yeah.
Um, I'm a big supporter of it, but with like I'm never like a black and white answer person. I'll always be like super nuanced about it. I have a nuanced take on it. We are big. I'm a personal big user of ChatGPT. My team is encouraged to use it. I view it through the lens of a tool that can accelerate your work. It can challenge your work. It can open up new perspectives. I don't view it as a like replacement of people or replacement of thoughtfulness. But for me personally, for example, you know, it's not going to be, my team's not going to be encouraged to, hey, go create an entirely new creative campaign with just AI driven graphics. But what it might be is, hey, let's concept together and then let's go ask ChatGPT, like, what have we missed in this concept? What are the gaps? Like, how could we be pushing this further? What are some examples we could pursue in creative execution? That's how I think of it is really a tool. I think it's so hard to paint with broad strokes on AI because I absolutely think I read an article the other day that compared it to like the dot-com bubble burst. And I thought that was such a good analogy because I feel like in the dot-com bubble burst, it was like
being commerce or being.com for the sake of being.com, just getting everything online, even if that wasn't the right channel for it. And I think of the same thing as AI, like everything's AI, whether or not AI was the right way to approach it. And so again, I don't feel that smart. I feel like I'm saying common sense. Just like, is it right? Like, are we using it with the right intent or for the, and is this the right application of it? Um, then you probably will be using it in the right ways versus, I am conscious of any sort of like, oh, we're just going to replace 10% of the workforce or, those things. I just don't think I don't think you'll be successful doing it. In your role as leading marketing, do you feel like you have a say in the conversation around how the business thinks about integrating AI operationally? Yes. Again, I feel very lucky. Owlet has actually recently created an AI committee that is very cross-functional, and we get together. And we are, I think this will be an evolving conversation because there are constantly new tools and new ways of applying these tools. So our goal is to meet regularly, assess the tools that are being used internally and that are also coming, newly available, and assess what level of support or integration we want to have with some of those tools. So it's been great. I've been very involved in that conversation, and also there are a lot of new, again, legal and regulatory guidelines around how if you are using AI in marketing, are you disclosing that, or to what level are you using it? So I think it's super important to keep marketing involved in those conversations and to have active, regular, cross-functional conversations about it. Absolutely. Um, what's on the horizon? What are some cool things that you can share with us? Any news? Anything you want to tip your hat to? Yes, I'm super excited actually. We in a couple of weeks, and I can share this now because this won't be published until after it has launched, but we have a really exciting new product launch coming up. We are launching a new baby monitor camera, and as part of that, a new bundled product as well. So we are launching DreamSight, which is going to be a $99 new smart baby monitor camera. It would be our smartest camera yet. We've always been known for the Dream Sock or the Smart Sock, but and we've had a camera before, but this is our more intentional effort at providing a really great camera experience, and also at a price point that can invite more people into the Owlet brand, as we do want people to feel like we're not an inaccessible brand or product. We want to make more of this technology available to parents. So our Dream Site product is launching it's launching September 9th. And as with that, we'll have our latest generation of the Dream Duo, which combines our camera and our sock together for that really all-in-one, robust, see, hear, no babies, okay, monitoring experience. I love that. I love that so much. And I have to ask the community question. It feels like a brand like yours, you're naturally going to be creating a community along with the build of the product because it's parents and parents want to hear from each other. How have you sort of built out the community around Owlet? Oh my gosh, in so many ways. And we're so lucky because parents are so great to Owlet, and we wouldn't be here without them. We have research that shows over 50% of Owlet purchasers first heard about Owlet from a friend or family member. So we are heavily reliant on our community. I mean, that's word of mouth that most brands would kill for, and it's all positive and great. So, there are so many ways we engage with them, whether it's through Facebook channels or we also have a Owlet Cares Foundations program that we work with parents all across the country who have either experienced loss and they want to educate parents, or they exist solely for early education on safe sleep, or they have kind of a niche passion or interest that they want to support parents in, like special needs or Down syndrome. So we work with those parents to help support their markets. Or to support their, I shouldn't say markets, the community of parents around them and their local areas. And that also helps us kind of get Owlet in the hands of people that maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it or find it or know about it. So that's really exciting as well. We want to make parents part of this launch itself, but that will kind of come after it's announced. But just in general, that's why we're so parent obsessed. I mean, we wouldn't be here without them. We have to have their viewpoint. I am so wary of kind of going astray from what our parents really need and want. So yeah, no, it's super exciting. I mean, there's really no end to that ability, and for you guys to think about as you continue the product forward. Bringing the parents along with you. Very, very exciting. The last quick question I wanted to ask you is, who's next? Who's somebody that you admire? And this can be an individual CMO that you know, or somebody you admire from afar. Or another way to ask the question is, what are some brands, especially given your category, given where you sit, what are brands that you really admire and you think they're doing pretty extraordinary things? And who should we have on the podcast interview next?
I think I'm probably too ADD for like 5 questions in one question, but I will pick one of those. Well, actually, I will first give shout out to my first CMO I worked for, Jessica Claude-Nicky. If she ever sees this, I'll be so happy. She has just shaped who I am as a leader my whole career. So I adore her and really look up to her. I think she's recently transitioned to a new role, so I don't know exactly what she's up to right now, but she's so awesome. Otherwise, I wouldn't say that I've spent much time kind of watching or idolizing a lot of other people, and maybe I should spend more time thinking about it. But again, I'm kind of so rooted in the end user and consumer that I just really don't think as much about that. Um, and on the brand side, I am just a total fangirl for what Aura has been up to. Part of me is a little bit jealous because they don't have any sort of FDA clearance or anything like that, and they're able to do a lot more than I can say and do. But I just really admire what they're up to. I think our missions are so aligned, and I think they're going to help pave the way for real innovation on consumer health. And I want to see people be healthy and live happy lives and be strong. And that's all I want for infants and parents and everybody. So I really admire what they're doing.
Love it. Um, Thank you so much for being here. This has been super, super interesting. You're an example of somebody who's actually truly living purpose-led marketing, purpose-driven marketing. I mean, this is, there's such a purpose to it, and you can just tell it's palpable how much you personally buy into this and the impact that it can make on people's lives. So it's exciting to see. So Liz, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
Uh,
having me.
I look forward to continue the conversation in person sometime soon. So
Awesome. Let's do it. Anytime.
Thank you for listening to Marketing Vanguard, part of the Adweek Podcast Network and Acast Creator Network. You can listen and subscribe to all of Adweek's podcasts by visiting adweek.com/podcasts. Stay updated on all things Adweek Podcast Network by following us on Twitter at Adweek Podcasts. And if you have a question or suggestion for the show, send us an email at podcast@adweek.com. Thanks for listening.